Got it.
All right, perfect. I'll take over. Well, thank you for the introduction, Tim. And our focus today is really going to be looking at the Stage 100 contractor from a residential builder standpoint. And so as we go through and focus on it, you'll see as we touch on the product, this product will also work for specialty contractors. It will also work for general contractors in the commercial side. But we want to talk about a little bit today. I really focused in on the residential side of the business. So when you look at the whole product, you're looking at a product that has estimating built in, production, which includes scheduling built in, the accounting is all built in, and then the analysis around it. So when Stage 100 Contractor was built, it was designed so that it would be a fully integrated product, so there'd be very little having to be done outside the system. Anytime you do something outside the system, you're usually duplicating entry. Some of the specifics that were built into the software that are only used from a home builder standpoint was it can be set up with the NAHB chart of accounts and cost code structure. It can be set up with task types, scheduling tasks for home builders, parts and assemblies for home builders. Along with that, a work-in process. You'll see a particular part of the project is that one of the unusual things that home builders deal with is a lot of them build model homes, or also they may just track a house on the balance sheet before it gets sold. We have that ability to do that seamlessly within the product without a lot of gyrations within the accounting to deal with. We also have things within the job that are specific to home builders, tracking the lot, the model, the square foot, the house closing, things that are unique to home builders. This gives you a little visual of the integrated estimating. And so we're going to go into this in a little bit more detail, but this kind of gives you a broad view of, it allows us to do some very simple estimating to very difficult estimating. And basically, if you're doing some estimating in Excel, it can be replicated in our system and automated in a lot smoother fashion. From a production builder standpoint, if you're doing production building or have certain models or plans you're dealing with, we can add a level to our estimating that allows us to pick and choose options and develop plans so that it really makes the sales cycle go a lot quicker so that you're not having to build a brand new Excel spreadsheet for every new house that comes along. And then on the scheduling platform, which is integrated, we find the scheduling not only helps for communicating with the homeowner on what's happening, how things are coming along, what our original plan was, how it looks, but also allows you to communicate with subcontractors, allows to send them notices. Instead of just calling them on Monday morning and constantly be on the phone, you can have the system send emails to update the subcontractors or where they're supposed to be this week. Loan draws on the revenue side. So we can bill customers directly, and that's not a problem. We can bill change orders directly. But also, most people are dealing with loan draws, whether they're dealing with a loan draw for the loan for themselves or filling out the sheet to be able for the homeowner to be able to give and do a loan draw. And so that's built into the system. We're going to touch on the managing of the subcontracts, because most home builders we deal with do not self-perform. We do have a lot that self-perform, but most don't. Most hire subs. Most don't deal with retention like a commercial contractor does, but we do track retention if it's necessary. But a big key that we see with a lot of home builders is I want to know that I don't overpay a sub and that I stay within budget. The system helps you do that. Change orders is another functionality. You'll notice certain things within this that go beyond what currently QuickBooks and Peachtree will do for you. The change order module is one of them. So it allows us to stay on top of change orders. A lot of change orders for residential builders you ask up front to get paid, and so that can be taken care of within the system seamlessly. Also, just communicating the change orders that are outstanding, what's been approved, any change order that affects a subcontract, having it automatically flow into the subcontract, handling that whole cycle, because one of the biggest money losers in the business is we forget to get a change order signed off, we don't bring it up till closing, the homeowner disagrees with us, and we just don't get paid for it. And so it helps us stay up to date on those processes a lot quicker. Another function that's really designed just for residential builders, we see some commercial do it, but it's our punch list management. So if somebody goes out to the home at the very end of construction, looks through it, keeps track of the punch list of what needs to be done, who's going to do it, whether a vendor's going to do it or an internal employee's going to do it, and then tracking to make sure those things are handled, they're closed out, and they're taken care of. And then finally, it wraps all of this information into a project work center. So a builder can go into one spot and see everything that Sage 100 Contractor knows about this one house. It'll have, you can see there in the center, it has like a to-do list, so what's outstanding on change orders, what's outstanding on loan draws, what's outstanding on reports, etc. throughout the system. It keeps track of it for you. So you can go into one spot in the program as opposed to jumping around between all the menus to get all your answers. And then some of the ways that we can communicate using the program. If you use Outlook, you can email directly out of the system. If you're using Gmail, you can also use the internal email system to email directly out of the system. So whether it's in sending out a purchase order, a change order, a subcontract, all of those can be emailed directly out of the system, so it doesn't become a two-step process like in most systems. Some of the reports that are designed specifically for homeowners is things like comparing jobs by square foot, looking at the gross profit and profit analysis report, and then things that most people want to see as a contractor. What's my change order report? What's a job cost summary? What's a job cost journal? What's the detail out there? And we'll touch on some of these. So some of the reasons why people go to Sage 100 Contractor versus what they're currently using, they want to streamline their construction process and not spend time doing paperwork in the office. They want to integrate from the very beginning of the project to the end what's going on and be on top of the project and not have to remember everything in their head. So that requires timely information and not information that's sitting in a truck, sitting in an Excel spreadsheet that's not being communicated with the rest of the staff. And then all of this tied around having good support. So if you're stuck on how to use the program, you can call Sage's telephone support. You can call Alliance Solutions Group support. You can go directly to your consultant you'll be assigned to. So you're not left hanging when you buy the software, but you have a support team around you to make sure you're up and running and you have a good customer experience. Now let's look at customer or business visibility. We have a nice dashboard that you can get immediate information on. We can also allow us to be able to truly understand our costs. We'll see some people coming off other softwares because they just don't know where they sit on a house. They really don't know if they made money on a house. They don't know how much money they made or how much they're leaving on the table. We also see that when we're doing estimates, we may give a quote to a buyer and then miss some things in our estimates because we didn't have a good template to work off of. So it helps us to be a little bit fine-tune some of our estimates. And then to be able to find the opportunities, especially for where I'm wasting money. Where is it that I'm dropping off money? And overall, looking at how to reduce the risk on it. So we want to make sure that as we're going through this process that we don't have any risk of forgetting to bill somebody for something, have costs left off the system. So let's jump right now into the software. So I'm going to open it up. So here's what you see when you first come into the software. You see a desktop like you're looking at now, and so this one's designed for my particular demonstration today. As I click across the buttons across the top, you'll see the desktop change. So different than a lot of programs may have one desktop with the icon, and sometimes they're fixed within that. So with Sage 100 Contractor, we try to make it very simple where we can modify and move things around. So if I don't like the look and feel of this, I can take them around here. I can delete items that are on here if I don't like them on here. And I can modify it so it becomes a true trail to be able to see what I do first, second, third. And it makes my training go quicker. It makes me training new employees go quicker and just moving through the process. You know, here's one on payroll and so forth through the system. Now on the left-hand side, we still have our full-blown menu with all the items we can choose from. But we prefer to put it on the desktop if it's something you use on a daily basis, similar to putting things on the desktop if you use Microsoft's desktop, you know, sitting in your computer. It's a similar type of concept to make it easy to be able to navigate. Now, layered on top of the whole program is a dashboard. And so here's an example of one of the dashboards here. And so we have a lot of different what we call gadgets we can put on the dashboard. And so if I open this up, it'll show you ones with general ledger. It'll show you ones with projects and receivables and payables. And we pick and choose which one of those makes the most sense for you. Obviously, you can pick and choose as you learn which ones to put on there. So here's some examples of a graph of some job costs. What are my outstanding change orders, my alerts, my cash balances, receivables, payables, my contract budget, cost to date. All of these, just like a report, have the ability to drill down. So if I see some change orders that I've sent out to customers and they have responded to, I can double-click on that, see those change orders that are in process, and double-click on that further and actually look at that particular change order. Reprint it, I can email it back out to the customer, whatever I want to do with that, and then back right back into my reports. So especially people coming off of QuickBooks and Peachtree are used to those drill-down reports. You won't lose that within our system. All of our reports have that ability to drill down so that we don't have to run 5 reports to get an answer. So I'm going to go back to the main menu and go to the home screen. And some of the things we're going to look at today is we're going to briefly go through setting up a takeoff, doing an estimate, creating subcontracts, purchase orders, doing a loan draw, looking at the schedule, looking at some real high-level information. My goal today is to be able to share with you some of the capabilities of the software. So if it looks like something that fits for you today or down the road, you can reach out to us and we can do a one-on-one demo and obviously take these into much deeper detail. So I'm going to open up a Takeoff, and I'm going to take one that we've already done before. So this is an estimate on a particular house. And so as you can see here, I'm going to show you how we get here, but basically this is one that we've been working on that shows some of the different work on the left-hand side with the square feet, electrical bids, HVAC bids, the plumbing bids, the quantity, the cost of the bid, the full bid amount here if I have a markup, and the cost code and cost type, so where I put it in the budget. Now, all the information you're looking at right now could be duplicated in Excel, but one of the screens that you can't duplicate in Excel very easily is who we got the sub bid from. By putting that in here, I will be able to quickly create a purchase order or subcontract for each one of those subs without much additional work at all. Also, you'll see different quantities in here. So some builders we work with do a very detailed takeoff. So they may take a set of plans and go through and measure the rooms, and measure out how much drywall, gypsum board, how much we need in 2x4s. We can go to a much stronger level of detail. Let's take another example in here. And let's say I'm a production builder and I've had a certain model and I've already done the takeoff on it, and now I'm building that model on another lot. So all I would do is set up the job, put in the address, come over here, import. And so when I do the import, I come down here and say, okay, here's the particular takeoff that I saved, similar to Excel, doing a copy and paste, and then I bring it in. And so in this one can be much more detailed. So here's my general conditions with some of the breakdown. Here's my site work, so we can see much stronger level of detail, and so forth as I go through the different projects. And so whether I'm doing a very simple estimate, just tracking sub-bids and putting markups, or we're doing a much more detailed one like this, the system will handle both of them. Now let's talk about one more tool that we can use to interface. So down here, I use my cursor down here. You can see over here it says, okay, for the 4-inch slab on grade, we measured 400 square feet. When I measured the 400 square feet, it calculated how much base rock, carpentry, 2% calcium, et cetera, I needed to do that slab. This is called an assembly within our system. Now, that 400 square feet is usually pulled off a set of plans. Most contractors are moving from paper plans to digital plans, and so we also have a tie-in to a digital plan. So just opening it up in the background, there's a tool called PlanSwift, and it's a takeoff software that works standalone, but also is one that interfaces with our product. So we can come into the plans, do a takeoff, do my area takeoff, color, do a quantity, a linear, area takeoff, cubic yard, whatever it might be, and take this information and feed it right back into our system where that 400 square feet goes in. So that now I can do takeoffs with PlanSwift, have it feed all those quantities in the Sage 100 Contractor, and then I can finish off my estimate. So depending on what level of detail we're going at, we can handle very detailed production type of home where we're buying all the sticks and bricks versus a custom home builder that might be just getting sub-bids out there and do it at a much higher level. So I'm going to go back in the one we're doing the sub-bids on just to show you kind of a small piece of that. And so with that, there's my different bids that I have out there. Some of the recaps we can get are things like, tell me what my budget is on this job. And so it organizes it, summarizes it all by what we call cost code or budget category. It'll tell me how much I have in there in the budget. I can also do it by task. So if I'm using my scheduling function, I can actually take my cost and organize it by task. So now I have a chronological view of my cost on the project. Helps out a lot when we're doing loan draw requests, figuring how much we need at the very beginning and throughout the job. Another view I have here is my vendor view. So this one is showing my material suppliers and my subcontractors that I've selected within this particular estimate, so I can create my purchase orders off of it. So if I go back over here, where that's pulling it from is over here in the subcontractor. So you'll notice here I have my electrical subcontract, Howard's Mechanicals doing my HVAC and my plumbing. So just like you're doing in Excel now where you're putting all the bids in, you're marking them up, putting sort of a markup on it, I'm dropping all that together. I get to my bid at the very end. Maybe I'm doing a very simple 10% markup. I could be doing an overhead plus a markup depending on what level of difficulty I want to do, or what level of detail I want to go into. But let's go back over to the detail for a second. Once I get this job, the challenge has always been, how do I create purchase orders so I can tell the subs how much I'm going to pay them and we're all on the same page, and how can I communicate this as we go forward? So once I get the job, it's a very simple process. I just come into here and I say, okay, I want to create all the purchase orders for this job. And so here's a list of all the purchase orders that I haven't created yet. I can associate my name with it and just say, create all those purchase orders. Now they're created. We'll go look at those in a minute. The other thing I can do is say, okay, create the budget on this job. Now the budget's in the system. So you can see these different export functions. If I'm using proposals in the system, I can export to that and print a proposal out. Purchase orders, if I'm using the subcontract module, and so forth and so on. And so it goes from a very easy estimating system to a very sophisticated estimating system, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. So now I'm going to leave the takeoff screen and the estimating screen. I'm going to go back into the project, and let's look at what we created so far. So I'm going to open up the job screen here. And so here's the job for the 123 Maple lot. George Costanza is going to be the one who's going to be our home builder that we're building this for. Now, if George hasn't come along yet, I may be blank like that where I haven't actually selected George yet because maybe I'm building this as a spec home. But once he becomes a home builder, I can just add it right in there. Now it's connected. This will be whatever my contract value is that we finally agreed upon. And so I think we got it signed off at $410,000. And so here's my final contract. Over here, I can keep track of all the people at that particular house I'm trying to track. If I'm tracking subdivisions or the supervisor on the job. And over here it allows me to put more detailed information. What's the lot number? What's the square feet? What's the model if it's working off a model? The color scheme. When I close it, when's the closing date? All this I can keep at the job level. Now I'm going to shrink this up so you can see the bottom a little bit better. Down here are my quick buttons on the house. And so instead of going to the purchase order screen and seeing the information about it, having to deal with, okay, I need to sort these purchase orders by job like you do in some systems. In ours, if we're in the job screen, we just click on that little purchase order tab, and it shows us all the purchase orders that we've created. Now, these from 2 through all the way down here, you can see all the ones dated 2/11/2015 are the ones that I just created on the fly. So I'm going to scroll through those. I'm going to go through the first one. These, I did not do any additional input. All I did was export this from my estimating screen. So here was the Howard's Mechanical, and they're doing the HVAC and the plumbing. So it brought over all their bids. I scroll back one. Here's my electrical purchase order. Here's my carpenter purchase order. Here's my Larson site work purchase order, and so forth. And so I created about 8 or 10 of these just by clicking on a button out of Estimate. One of the reasons people don't use purchase orders usually in the field today is because it's too much work to put these things together. As you can see, I've already done the work because I had to do the work for estimating. Now I push this directly in the purchasing module without doing any additional work. Now let's take it from there. Here's my bid for Howard Mechanical, who's doing the HVAC and the plumbing. Now I want to send this out to them. Maybe I want them to get signed off so that we're all on the same page, even though I got a bid that came over with a fax machine. So I can hit print here. And let's say I want to send him this particular one here. Here's one of my form designs. And so this one says subcontract. It says all the amounts in here. And here's some of my boilerplate information about that I want him, whenever he signs a subcontract, to do. We have some people that have one-page subcontracts, some people that have no legal verbiage, some people that have 20-page subcontracts. Depending on what you've chosen to do with your business, we can accommodate it. So there's a purchase order or a subcontract. So the old-fashioned way was print it out, fax it to the guy, deliver it to him, whatever it might be. But now what I can do is, if I have Outlook, I can just click on a button there for Outlook. It automatically pulls up my Outlook, and then I can send it directly to them. And I can ask them to approve it. So that way, as easy as that, I can send them a subcontract out of the system. Now, if I'm using Gmail or Yahoo Mail or something else, we do have an email, what we call the internal email system. This lets us do the exact same thing, but email it out of the system. 100% of our emails attach the document as a PDF, so we can send it directly out of the system. And so it makes it very simple. Everybody can open up the PDF out in the system. So that's how we flow it through from there. I'm going to close this out. If we have change orders that are working on for a particular one, here's going to be my change order that I was working on for this house. So if I open this up, this gives me an example of the change order screen. And so with the change order, it's going to be assigned to the job. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 as we go through. This shows you on the change order that it's a simple cabinet upgrade where they upgraded it. They want it maple wood. This is going to be the additional cost for it. I'm going to mark it up 25% and charge the customer $12.05. Over on my budget tab, I figured out what it's going to cost me to increase my budget by, so I can make sure that I'm covering this in the budget. So if I'm adding a change order to increase the contract value, it's certainly going to cost me some budget to do it. So that keeps everything in sync as we move forward. Again, I can print this change order directly out of the system. Here's an example of one of our forms where, again, it summarizes my original contract on the house, the change orders, the amounts. This is all modifiable where I want people to sign, who's signing, what is going to show up on the information here, and sending this directly out of the system. So again, I can email this directly out through Gmail, send it directly out through Outlook, and get that in the hands of the homeowner so they can take care of it. Now, in this particular screen, we only see it really in residential contractors where they want to get a check if they're going to do this additional work for the home builder and for the homeowner. Over here, we just click on one button that says Create AR Invoice. It creates an invoice. We can attach that invoice with the change order, and they both go together, and we can get moving from there. So it makes it very simple whether I'm going to add the change order to a loan draw or if I'm going to bill it directly, to do either one through this process. As we go through the project, we can kind of always see where we are at with our contract, our change orders, what we've invoiced, or sometimes what we've drawn so far on the project and track it. Here's my budget on the job that I exported out of estimating. And again, if I'm not using estimating, I can always type in purchase orders and type in budgets from scratch. That's easy enough to do. But this really alleviates that duplicate entry by starting in one spot and pushing it out to the rest of the project. So now I'm going to jump back to the main screen here. So we talked a little bit about the takeoffs, creating the budget, creating the subcontracts and purchase orders. and then feeding into the change orders. With subcontracts, we have various ways we can do some analysis on it. Give you a couple of examples of some of the reports. Here's a very detailed report of a subcontract audit. It'll list everything that's on that subcontract, any changes to that subcontractor, all the invoices have been matched up against it, and what the balance is so far. Give you another view of another type of report that we run with people. Here's one that we've used for people that say, okay, it's great to have those subcontracts, but I want my superintendent to tell me how much of that subcontract to pay each week, and I don't want to wait until they get sent an invoice in. So we can give them a list of all the subcontracts on the job, where they're at, and how much they're requesting to pay the sub this week. And so with that, we're able to do very detailed subcontract notices all the way through. Now, before we jump into reporting, let's look at some of the other things we can delve into. So a lot of people are using Microsoft projects. They may be using something. They may be using Excel. They may be just using pen and paper to keep track of where their projects are. We see, especially within home building, if you're going to build this, especially a custom house, they want to know when the due date and when they're going to move in. So you're going to set that due date. But as you know, things change throughout the project. They've asked for wood to be imported from Peru, and it's going to take a little while. And they have all these exceptions that come up. They can't make a decision on the lighting packages, whatever it might be. So the schedule is going to change and keep moving, so that one of the things with our scheduling package is not only can we move the items around when things get delayed, but we can also make a note of why those things moved. Could be rain, could be things that we did wrong, but a lot of times it's a homeowner delaying a particular action or changing something that's causing it to go out there. So if I close this one out, and let's look at one of my favorite schedules to be able to use with somebody. This is a before and current schedule. So this is all those scheduling tasks that we had earlier. This is my original schedule, my actual schedule, and down here you can see under flat work, the concrete moved out due to rain delays. Every time you have a change in the schedule, we teach the project managers to note why. So now if you're a month late into this project, it's easy to be able to come in there and say, okay, here's all the reasons why, and I can send you this report. Now let's say this report's a really good report, the before and actual. The customer is asking every weekend, give me an update on my schedule, give me an update on my schedule. Any report we do in the system can also be scheduled in the system. So if I say, okay, I want this to go every Friday and I want this to get emailed to the homeowner, I can have this automatically emailed to them every Friday. Take this a step further. Financial reports, job cost reports, all those reports can be emailed to owners, project managers, accountants throughout the week, every day, once a week, whatever the time frame is we want to push them out. That way, the old-fashioned way of calling somebody in the office, telling them to send you a report, you're not wasting time doing those sorts of things. So we have that automatic scheduler built into the software. And so we looked at some of the other pieces associated. Now, I talked about at the very beginning, sometimes we deal with subcontractors that are very, very in tune with email. If that's the case, a lot of times we may be emailing them the schedule for the upcoming week. If I'm using scheduling and I'm keeping it up to date, I can have this as an automatic email going out to my subs. Could be every Sunday night. Here's all the projects I got you scheduled on this week. Here's the address, here's the start and end date, and here's the task you're doing for it. So that way we can get people all on the same page, again, with very little effort on our end. And so that same report's available in a call list. So if somebody in your office calls the sub, the exact same report can be printed out to call. This just saves you a step. Now let's look at, we've been building the house. We need to get our money out of the house. So what I'm going to do is show you our loan draw screen. So this allows us to put a list of scheduled values, a list of all the loan draw attributes within there. And as you can see, I've been also putting in here my change orders as I go through. And so this can be laid out exactly the way the bank you deal with is requiring it. Here's a listing of the scheduled amounts that I'm going to be drawing upon. And all you have to do on this particular screen is come in and put what % complete you're done on each one of those items. And so it's going to keep track of every loan draw you've done on every house you've done. So you can go back, even though you're on loan draw number 5, I can go back and reprint number 2. So if I hit print here, let's take an example of a loan draw request printout. So here's an example of one. So it'll summarize the loan draw request. And keep in mind, this is all customizable. So if the bank wants to see it a certain way that is different than the way we print it, we can come in here and just edit the form design. And then here's a list of all the scheduled values of what I'm asking for the money on. And so this allows us to keep track of those loans, keep track of those percentages, and not go outside the system and duplicate all this work inside Excel. Because the more we do stuff to work inside Excel, the more we're starting to get away from our day-to-day business, and it's costing us time, and then it's costing us money. Let's look at a very simple budget versus actual report. And again, those cost codes and divisions you see on the left can be associated with the NAHB standard ones. And as you probably know, the NAHB has ones that are designed for production, which are a lot deeper, and also custom builders, which is a lot more summarized. Just like you're probably used to in your current software, if I run this budget versus actual, I want to know where those temporary utilities came from. I can double-click on it and see, oh, okay, I paid Lakeshore that amount. I can double-click on that and actually see who it was that entered it, what period they entered it, where it came from. This was an AP invoice, the date they entered it, and I could actually open up that invoice in accounts payable. So it takes you from the report all the way down to the original transaction that created it. For our CPAs in the group, if I click on Go to Transaction, it'll even show you the accounting transaction behind it all. So you can go to very low level of detail to get your answers quickly within a project. Let's take another example. This is one that was built strictly for the home builder market. This one will show me is I can take any 5 houses that I've built and compare them side by side on what it cost me per square foot for the different areas from concrete to foundation to HVAC to fireplaces, etc. It'll even tell me a summary at the bottom of what we sold it per square foot, what it cost us per square foot, what our profit was, and then an average. Production builders really love this when they build the same house 5 times in a row, and they can see if they're having any profit leakage, if they're starting to have changes in profitability based on maybe the market's dropping the price and our cost is still high. This allows them to do some of that analysis very quickly. And then we have some very high level. I'm building a bunch of projects during the year, and I want to kind of see, show me everything I've closed so far. So it'll show me my sales price, the cost, profit, my margin, and keep track of it all for me. And here is where it's pulled in model type. If there's a lot number, a settlement date, it's able to summarize this information for us. Here's another example of a job cost settlement sheet. Shows you line by line the budget versus cost, the committed cost to your purchase orders and subcontracts out there. If I did a change order and had an upgrade on my pricing, it's going to tell me what that change order is bringing in on my price. And it'll summarize this. What's my sales price? What's my lot premium? How to do against the budget? So it'll summarize that. So that's just one of the many reports. We have over 1,200 reports in the system. I'm just showing you a small subset to kind of give you a feel for what the system can do and where you can go with it. Now on the left-hand side over here, you can kind of see the modules that are involved. So we've been touching on strictly working on the project side, which is really the guts of why somebody moves to a system like that, because the project management integrated with the accounting. But of course we have payroll, we have the full-blown payroll, payables, receivables, accounting reports, all the things you would expect within a full-blown system, all tied, integrated into one system. Here's the estimating we had spoke of, and also the scheduling. So all this comes as one integrated product, so you're not duplicating and putting things in more than once. So that gives you kind of a quick, brief overview of what we see within the system. Now, if there's any questions that you'd like to bring out at the end here, I'd be glad to answer a few questions. Here's our website here on the screen, so you can see it. So you don't have time to ask questions today, you want to come back later and drill into our website or call our 800 number to reach out to us, we'd be glad to help out.
All right, thanks for the information, Kevin.